Hello and welcome to this Darebee Wellbeing and Self-Care video. I am David, your host, and today we're going to be talking about abs. Now, I understand that you want me to show you exercises you can do which will allow you to develop fast, strong, powerful abs which look great the moment you take a shirt off. And for that specifically, I have a different video which I'm linking to in the description box on YouTube, so do check it out. I'll also link to several workouts. I'll link to an abs development program you can do over 30 days, and even an abs book which gives you 100 different workouts that you can actually apply, so you have great variety for every fitness level which will allow you to get there. However, when we look at the well-being and self-care videos, essentially we explore some of these fitness concepts in order for you to understand them better, so that when it comes to your fitness journey, you can make better decisions. And those decisions which you make are sustaining, as in how you feel and how your mental health develops as part of your physical training, and also sustainable, so you can actually apply them throughout your fitness journey, which essentially should be your life journey. The understanding behind this is if you make the right choices for the right reasons, then there's no loss. You'll always be winning no matter what you do. You'll always feel great no matter how you look, and you will always be able to be at your best. We fetishize abs, I know that. We do this for two different reasons. First of all, because whenever you look at fitness posters, whenever you look at fitness influencers, whenever you look at any kind of moment in films where the protagonist takes the shirt off, they have abs. The second thing is that abs in themselves are the great leveler. When it comes to strength and fitness, somebody may be able to run faster than somebody else, they may be able to jump higher than somebody else, they may have bigger biceps perhaps than somebody else, or they may be stronger without having bigger biceps. These are concepts which are very difficult to define, they're very difficult to compare, but abs are such a visible element of fitness that the moment somebody has a six-pack, we determine that they're fit and therefore have reached a desirable state of fitness, and we admire them for that. Now, when it comes to athletes, no disagreement there, absolutely. But when it comes to ordinary people doing that, well, I have huge problems with that, which I'm going to explain. And before I explain those problems, it is fair for you to ask that, David, if you're going to critique abs, have you got abs of your own? And as you can see, this is a picture of me taken yesterday. It was a slightly sunnier day, and yes, I do. Though I don't train specifically for abs, I don't diet specifically for abs, what I'm going for always is a strong functional capability which allows me to move my body the way I want to and feel great while I'm doing so. And I will unpack a lot of this as the video goes on. But let's start from the beginning. Why do I have problems with the six-pack look? Well, because essentially a large element of the six-pack look has to do with the amount of body fat in the body. And if we were to give somebody a crash diet, which allowed them to lose a lot of body weight quickly, that person would then have a six-pack because the subcutaneous layer of fat, which is between the outside of the skin and the muscles underneath, becomes reduced, and those muscles would pop. Would that person then be really fit? They would look great, perhaps, on film, on camera, in photographs, but would they be great? Well, they wouldn't be able to perform very well because they would be on a calorie deficit diet, which doesn't give them a lot of energy. They have reduced their body fat significantly, so perhaps their function may be impaired a little bit. And also, they haven't got any stronger than they were before they went on the crash diet. So are they really any fitter? You can see immediately then my issue with the six-pack look. When we apply it across the board as something which we have learned to fetishize and covet, it creates issues which create unrealistic expectations, but more than that, sometimes make us engage in practices which I think are antithetical for our mental health and also our physical health and functionality, and definitely the longevity of what we do in terms of fitness. But let's take things from the beginning. When it comes to abs, they're hard to get, hard to keep, and hard to maintain. And the reason they're so hard to get, keep and maintain is because getting to them in the first instance is part of 3 different physical attributes or 3 different aspects of fitness. The first one we can't do anything about, it's genetics. Now, the rectus abdomini, which is the layer of muscle which is in front of our stomach, which is there to keep our viscera, our guts, in place, usually is comprised, from a genetics point of view, between 2, 3, or 4 bands of muscle. And they're separated down the middle by connective tissue. If we have 2, we have a 4-pack, and that's all we can have. If we have 3, we have a 6-pack, and we have 4, we have an 8-pack. And if you look at my picture, I'm one of those people who actually potentially can have an 8-pack if I diet enough for that, and if I train specifically for that, which I don't. To give you an idea how divorced the number of packs that you have on your abs is from strength, consider that Arnold Schwarzenegger, who went on to win Mr. Olympia 7 times, has only ever had a 4-pack, because genetically he just has 2 bands of muscle going across his stomach. So genetics is something which we can't change. It doesn't matter, but it doesn't actually affect your strength, it doesn't affect the functionality of your abs, and it doesn't affect how powerful they are. Which now takes us to the next bit, which is nutrition. Traditionally, fitness instructors famously used to say that abs are cooked in the kitchen. And this is a bit of a misnomer because there's very little cooking involved. As a matter of fact, we're going down the opposite route where you have to restrict quite significantly your eating in order to go into a caloric deficit. And the moment you go into a caloric deficit, then you reduce the subcutaneous layer of fat, which is between the outer layer of your skin and the muscles underneath. And the moment you do that, your abs pop out and they become visible. Immediately you begin to understand that, and from my earlier example of somebody dieting, that since abs pop out, they're always there, right? And you're right, they're always there. We'll address that next. But right now we'll say that, if you were to reduce your body fat, essentially you're looking at perhaps 15% for men and about 18% for women. And if you get to that level, your abs will pop out. Now, in the picture of me which you've seen, I don't measure my body fat specifically, but I do have a scale which reads it. And that's always just an indicator because these scales are not very precise. But mine hovers between 18 and 19% throughout the year. In the summer, it drops a little bit lower than that. It goes to about 17%. And again, I do not specifically go into any diets which are designed to reduce body fat. I go by how I feel, and my main focus always is in my own functionality so that I can move my body in ways that I want to move it, so that I can feel in control of my body and I can feel happy in that control. And I would say that should be yours, but then I would be advocating specifically for things. So I'm not, I'm just giving you an idea of how all this works. So now that we have covered nutrition, you say, the question comes up, should we go on a diet when it comes to abs? Well, if you want to see your abs quickly, well, you haven't got much of a choice. You have to go on a diet. But I wouldn't advise that, because if you go on a diet and you reduce your body fat weight too quickly, sure, your abs will pop out. At the same time, you run the risk of having metabolic shock in your body, which basically slows down your metabolic system. So at the moment you reach your ideal weight and you can see your abs, you start eating normally again, so you don't overeat, but you go back to what you used to perhaps. And then your body actually puts in more weight than before. You're going to become depressed, you're going to lose your gains, you're going to get caught into this cycle of dieting, crash dieting and stopping and eating again. The whole thing is nuts. So I wouldn't suggest that. By all means, this is up to you. You always make your own decisions, but hopefully this gives you an idea of how to make slightly better decisions so they are sustainable. So how do you reduce your body fat without doing this? Well, if you have a sustaining and sustainable strategy of working out every day and watching your nutrition And by watching it, essentially what am I saying? You make sure that you have sufficient protein in your diet to repair muscle and build muscle, and you try and reduce the amount of fat and sugar that you actually put into your diet or that your diet contains. So if you do these two things, long term, you are basically allowing your body to gradually find a new level of fitness with a lower body fat percentage and a higher muscle composition percentage. And that's when your abs pop out. And like you've seen in the picture of me, which I showed you, I'm not specifically training for abs. They're there, great, but the main thing is how functional they are, how strong I feel, and what allows me to do. And abs, be under no illusion, strong abs allow you to do everything with greater ease and in a more powerful way. So they make everything better. Which now leads us naturally to the third part of this video. So we discussed genetics, we discussed nutrition, and now we're going to discuss training. Now, abs are hard to get because they're involved in everything we do. I'm sitting up right now talking to you, my abs are working. If I was to go on a walk, my abs would work. If I was to jump, kick, punch, doing training on a punch bag, my abs would work. So abs are involved in everything we do all the time, all day, every minute of the day. Because they are so active, they're naturally strong, which is why if we go on a diet, without any further training, we reduce our body fat weight, they pop. Okay, so now you have them all the time, you just can't see them. So because you can't see them because they're hidden by fat, but because they're always being trained and they're naturally strong, they resist casual training, which requires them to change and become stronger and bigger. Why do they resist it? Because they train all the time. So they need consistent training to make them stronger and bigger. This is only one of the elements which make it hard to get. So essentially, if you are working out so you can get abs, you need to work out every day. What do you need to do now? Well, obviously, we talk about sit-ups and crunches because that's what we do. Why are we talking in a meaningful manner about sit-ups and crunches? Because essentially, abs are a flat layer of muscle. When we walk, sit, etc., like I'm doing now, they're not actually moving very much. Because they're not moving very much, they may get stronger, but they're not actually getting bigger. In order for them to get bigger, we have to create the kind of training environment that puts specific stressors on them, which then triggers the adaptations that we need in order for them to get bigger. If you have bigger abs under the layer of fat which is beneath your skin, they're easier to see. And then perhaps you need to lose a little less weight, a little less fat for them to become visible. So if we are to train them, we need to make them move. If we're to make them move, what do we have to do? Well, we have two primary options. We have to do sit-ups, which essentially allows us to fold the upper part of our body down, or we have to do leg raises, which then basically lifts our body, our legs, coming up towards our chest. So we do leg raises, we do sit-ups. If we do either of those, sure, our abs will get bigger, but this is a repetitive motion or repetitive movement exercise, which puts stressors on specific muscle groups and the spine. And if we constantly do just that, potentially we increase muscle imbalances. Perhaps we might have specific problems from inflammation caused by repetitive overuse, and so on and so on. So just doing those two becomes unrealistic on a daily basis if you're determined to make your abs bigger and stronger. So what do? Well, there are standing abs exercises you can do, so you need to add variety. There are sitting abs exercises. There are abs exercises which require just lifting your legs but not folding up in the same way. And there are even push-ups and planks and so on, all these different exercises which allow you to do that. Like I said, I've linked to a video which shows you just 3 very strong, powerful abs exercises which don't require sit-ups and don't require crunches, and there's 100 different workouts you can actually follow, and there's a program you can follow which allows you to do all these things in a different way. If you vary the amount of training you do for your abs, then that allows you to train them every day. They'll get stronger, they will get bigger, they'll be easier to see through your skin, and functionally you'll feel great, emotionally you'll feel great, and you don't have to diet as much. Now all this is so that we can actually get those abs we want, right? So you need to train every day for those abs. Once you get them, maintaining them also becomes a full-time job. Why does it become a full-time job? Because essentially, like any other part of our body, which has to do with muscle tissue, muscle is hard to build, it's expensive to build for the body. And once we don't use it to the same amount, the body decides, well, I don't need to keep it. So then it goes into the extra but shorter expense of breaking it down and losing it. And this is no exceptions to the abs. So essentially, if you don't then maintain them every day, if you don't do maintenance work to keep them, you're going to lose them pretty quickly. And also, if you don't watch the kind of nutrition that allows you to maintain more or less your body fat within a specific range, well, it doesn't matter what you do as part of your training, you're going to put on weight, that weight will hide the abs which you have, and you will still not be able to see them. So maintaining your abs requires both training and nutrition. The difference is that when it comes to maintenance in training, you don't have to work as hard. So perhaps, if you were to do, let's say, from an hour's training each day, and I'm giving this as an example. If you were to use 20% of the time to train your abs, now perhaps you only need to do that on a 5 or 10% basis, and not necessarily every day. But your nutrition part should be constant. I hope I have given you a very good idea of why abs are so difficult to get, why they are difficult to maintain, and what you need to do in order to maintain them once you have them. What I will say always is that when it comes to choosing between strong abs and showy abs, strong abs should win every time. They're there, once you have them, they basically allow your body to move in a faster, more powerful way. They connect the kinetic chains of the lower and upper body. You can punch harder, kick harder, jump higher, run faster, and you will get tired more slowly, just because you have stronger abs. This functionality should be your number one priority, in my opinion. So you shouldn't get caught into the fetishization of abs. Now that you have a better understanding why that fetishization occurs in the first instance, you shouldn't fall for it. And also, if you decide for yourself, because your own needs, and this is fully respected as a choice, that you want to develop abs, you want to be able to take your shirt off at the beach and have a 6-pack or a 4-pack, or whatever nature actually sort of gifted you with, an 8-pack. Great, but do it for the right reasons. Do it in the right way. Don't fall into this crash diet trap. It will work against you in the long term, and you'll certainly not be happier. Once you get them, don't lose them. It's an achievement, so work to maintain them, and for that you need to work smart. Put together your daily kind of exercise and your weekly kind of exercise plan that takes into account that you need to work your abs. I sincerely hope this has helped. I sincerely hope this has sort of demystified the whole subject. It has helped you understand a little bit better why it's so difficult to get those abs. But it has also shown you that if you don't have them, it's not a big deal, because they're there anyway and they're strong, and you can still make them stronger. If you do work to get them, it has given you a better idea of how to do this, so it's sustaining and sustainable. I keep stressing these things because essentially they link mind and body, they link how we function externally and how we feel internally. And I hope that it has made you, it has helped you, or it helps you make better decisions when it comes to your fitness journey and your life journey. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. See you all next time.